Gil, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you being here. I'm happy to meet you. I'm happy to get to know you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Um, I am doing well. I'm pretty busy with my transaction coordination business, and I'm just happy to be here.
That's awesome to hear. So, I will ask you a question that I ask every single guest at the start of the podcast to get to know you. So, outside of your business, first, outside of the business, outside of real estate, tell me who you are. We want to know what you like to do, your hobbies, and what your passion is. Who is Gil?
I'm a helper. Um, I believe it was Fred Rogers who once said, "Look for the helpers." And I'm a helper. I have spent pretty much my entire career helping people. I spent 15 years in IT tech support uh, for PCs, and then I spent 2 years helping people go solar, and now I'm doing administrative support for creative finance investors. So I'm definitely a helper. I like helping people. I like rooting for the underdog, which is pretty perfect since I'm a LA Chargers fan. Um, and yeah, I'm just someone who likes to help people and make people laugh.
Wow. Okay, I hope you can throw some jokes in here, make us laugh here in the podcast. Be like this. Most of our audience are beginners, so of course this there was if you can have a lot of you can educate the audience here in our podcast. But before that, I apologize for this. You talked about your business and your career. I said outside of the career. So
Uh,
and you're
well,
into baseball, right? You said LA Dodgers.
no, LA Chargers.
Oh,
So I'm a
Chargers.
football fan.
Football. Okay.
I like pretty much anything that has a screen. I'm a big couch potato, and I like movies when I can afford to go see one. I like beach volleyball. Not that I'm very good at it, but I like playing it occasionally, especially during the summer.
Wow. Okay. LA Dodgers. So football, LA Rams was what I remembered when I was a kid. Do you remember? It was LA Rams
Yes,
before, but now it's LA Dodgers. That's so cool. Who's your favorite football player?
probably LT, Ladainian Tomlinson. I mean, he's just a class act on and off the field.
Wow, that is so cool. Jerry Rice is for me. I might be aging myself. Jerry Rice, really old player,
Yeah.
retired. But that's so cool. And you like movies. So now you're getting the feel of the podcast. This is very, again, just a casual conversation. Um, you like movies. Do you consider yourself a movie buff?
Yeah, I do sometimes like to participate in like pop culture trivia events, and I think I have a pretty good grasp on pop culture.
All right. Can you give me your top five movies? I'll give you mine after yours.
Oh gosh, that's hard.
Oh, top three. Top three then.
And that's even harder. Yeah, I mean, I like The Matrix, I like, um, well, the original one anyway. The first one, yeah. Um, there's a movie that I liked a lot when I was younger called Mr. Holland's Opus, which was kind of like a coming of age movie kind of thing. Was really, quite sweet. And uh, then I really like the Harry Potter series as well.
Great choices for me. It would be Mad Max, the newer one, Fury Road, and Lord of the Rings. course, we can't go wrong with Lord of the Rings, and it's not so much of a popular movie, but Clint Eastwood, um, Gran Torino. That's
Uh,
my wild card pick, as I would say. But we'll talk about that later. Again, now I want to
okay.
know your story. Where
So,
are
who would win in a pop culture battle on Lord of the Rings between you and Stephen Colbert?
Oh no, him. He can speak Quenya. I can't speak Quenya. I can't speak Quenya, but I do know the first age, the second age, and then I haven't finished the Silmarillion. But if it's just Lord of the Rings, the three books, I can
Yeah.
hold my own. But but he would win. He can speak Elvish. He can speak Quenya, so I can't compete with that. Well, anyway, now I would like to know your story, Gil. Where are you from? Were you always in LA? And if you can get into detail of your childhood, your journey, and what got you here.
Now, the facetious answer is the desire to live. Because I originally came from South Africa and immigrated just before the election in 1993 in South Africa when apartheid had ended. They were expecting some January 6th style shenanigans to happen, during that election. And thankfully they didn't, but we decided to get out while the getting was good. And we came and we moved to California, to LA County, where my mom's sister lived. And we lived close to them for about a year. Then my dad got a job in San Diego and we all moved down there. And aside from going to college, I've lived in San Diego pretty much ever since. So went to college in San Luis Obispo, did a journalism degree there. Not that it's helped me much, but even then, print journalism was starting to fade, even as I was studying it. So right now, they don't even have a newspaper at that university anymore. It's all online editions. So after that, I worked at a Department of Defense subcontractor as their IT department. And that's when I did my desktop support. And once they decided to move to Wyoming, where they have 3 weeks of summer during the entire year, I didn't want to move there, so I decided to move on to a different position. So I started working in solar, and I started working in solar sales, but there wasn't really a good fit. So I transitioned into administrative support for the same solar company. And I did a lot of things in that role. And, it would be like I would reserve solar panels with vendors, complete forms for utility companies, set appointments for vendors to come out to the customer, that kind of thing. So, and I found that I really like doing that kind of detail-oriented work. So once I left that company, I was looking to do something similar, and that's how I found transaction coordination work. So what I like about it is that it's a challenge to keep all those balls in the air simultaneously while getting every last detail correct. The key is to keep checking the document revisions. One thing might have been corrected, but another error might have been introduced in that correction. So you have to be cognizant of that. I like to say that attention to detail is my superpower because I'm very good at what I do. When I first started interning as a TC, I noticed multiple details about a file that were incorrect and earned the nickname Hawkeyes from my fellow TCs because of that. So TCs is just fits very well into my wheelhouse because it focuses on my attention to detail. And that's what I love about that job, is that it focuses on something that I'm good at.
Gotcha. I see that, and of course, being an by the way, that is crazy that you work for the Department of Defense in IT. I think that's very cool, and like helping people with
Well, I was a
solar.
subcontractor, but yeah.
But still, that's still cool, you know. You spent your career helping people in technology and solar, and now in real estate. One thing you mentioned is your attention to detail. Can you give me another like common thread or common attitude that's driven you through all of those industries? So attention to detail, but personally, what else has worked for every single industry that you've worked with?
Well, if you're going to do something, do it well. If something is going to have my name on it, it's not going to be, half-assed, for lack of a better term. So I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I am going to do it the best way I know how to do it.
Gotcha. So what was it about? It seemed like a lot of your industry, a lot of the industries you worked for were really lucrative, right? Solar, especially now, like it's booming, right? And like, what was it about TC, being a TC, a transaction coordinator, especially the side of real estate? What what made you want to build a business around it? What made you wanted to transition to it?
Well, there's really two kinds of TCs. There's the traditional TC for traditional real estate, and then there's the creative finance TC. Now, creative finance TCs deal with a lot more technical documentation and processes, and there's a lot more steps. So it requires a lot more steps, and therefore it pays a lot better. So that was one part of it. And then I like that it fit in with my previous goals of helping people and using my attention to detail. So that was why I decided to get into it, because I thought I could, help a lot of people.
I see. You said that attention to I love it that you said your superpower is attention to detail, and I believe you. That is a superpower. That's something I struggle with, and I think it's amazing that you have that again superpower. When did you realize this skill? Were you always, a person who was attentive to detail when you were younger, or was it something you practiced? Were you always like this when you were younger? Tell us a story.
Well, I think it's got a lot to do with the kind of like video games that I played as a kid. There was always a lot of attention to detail. Uh, and there was one of my favorite video games, now I'm dating myself, growing up was Moon Patrol, where you were that little buggy jumping over the rocks, jumping over the holes in the ground. And, you get to a point where you start discerning patterns and you pay attention to all the little details. And like, okay, when I get to this spot, I need to jump. And, I used to have a Nintendo DS, and one of the games there was you had to like memorize six numbers, 6-digit numbers, and then repeat it back after the number had disappeared. So that was also, like training my attention to detail.
Right. So I guess at a young age you really like that. Was it either I would like to pull off my DS. I still have my original DS. I'm an avid gamer and I do know Moon Patrol from it's the Atari. I could be incorrect here. Atari 2600, I believe, right? So I could be wrong, but like, yeah, I didn't grow up with Atari, but I did grow up with, I still played some of the Atari stuff from my father. And like, that is so amazing that you carried that through when you were growing. The game in the DS, was it personal math trainer or brain training?
And I think it was called Big Brain Academy, what
Ah,
that game was called.
right, right. Big Brain Academy. Yes. I be honest with you, I played it once when I was like in grade school and like this is too hard for me. I stuck with Mario and Mario Kart. But anyway, that's so cool. So I guess it was your personality, right? To be um attentive to
Yeah.
have attention to detail as your superpower. Was it just purely video games or if you can remember, did you get that from your parents, maybe?
Well, my mom is more humanities and my dad is more engineering. So I got a lot of the humanities from my mom. So if anything, it probably came from her.
Gotcha. That's so cool. And like, what is one thing, being a person that is, so big into detail, what is something that ticks you off? Something that you can't like,
Oh.
tell me one thing that you don't like when working with people.
People who write articles or publish articles but don't proofread them. I mean, it just speaks about to your level of, I wouldn't say so much professionalism, but your level of care in your work. If you're going to put work out there, at least take a couple minutes to read it over and proofread to make sure that everything is spelled correctly. Some of the mistakes I've seen are really egregious, and it's like, what am I supposed to think of this guy that he doesn't even care to proofread his own work?
Gotcha. Spoken like a true like a person. Because my sister is also from was is also a journalism graduate, and I do see that she's worked for newspapers. That's a really big deal. And now I want to go back to what you said earlier. You said journalism, your degree, didn't help you much, but I believe there should have been like some trickle there. How has that your degree helped you in being a TC, a transaction coordinator, right?
Well, I meet a lot of people and they say, oh, I'm not that good at writing. I think that's probably because of, they haven't really had the opportunity so much. I mean, nowadays, with everyone being a blogger and everyone being a substacker, there's a lot more writers than there used to be. So I have, written a couple columns before. I used to be a judge who wrote a weekly column on a now defunct website about American Idol. And I used to do a column called Contenders and Pretenders, which people I thought would go far and which I thought were, just good TV viewing. And so my degree has helped me write articles and it's helped me, process my feelings and that kind of thing. I'm still a lot better getting my point across in writing than I am verbally. Because there's not all these spaces when I talk or I mean, when I write, you can't see the spaces. So,
Right. Not a lot. You have time to process when you're writing. We're the opposite. I'm. I don't want to say I'm horrible at writing because That's not going to be great for my portfolio. Of course, I'm proficient, I would say, in writing, but that's my weakness. And like, I think that's where I salute you. Not only people who have like a background in journalism, but literature in general, right? That's an amazing thing. And like, for you at least, you said that um, there are two ways into being a TC, right? But now that your business is growing, as your business is growing, what has become harder than you expected?
the amount of sales that is involved in running your own business. I mean, I knew that going into it, you have to find clients and you have to sell yourself. And that's, I knew that was going to happen. There's a large dose of being a therapist involved in being a TC. So there's that as well, which is, you have to deal with a lot of different personalities and know how to deal deal a lot with people. So it's those two things were surprising.
Gotcha. And tell me now about your process, how your business works. As I've said, most of our audience here are beginners, and like, tell us how your business works and how your work process, and like, what do you actually do, and like, do you actually have properties of your own? Do you do wholesaling or anything like that, or is it purely coordination? Tell us everything about what you do.
Okay. I ran a service called Sterling TC Services. And what that is transaction coordination, mostly for investors who use creative financing means like subject to or seller financing and that kind of thing. I also do cash transactions as well. And those are the easy ones. So what I do is when an investor has signed a purchase contract with the seller, that is when I get involved, and that is the starting line. A lot of investors like that part of the deal the most. The thrill of the hunt and then finally signing the deal. If they had their way, that would be the end of it, and then they could move on to the next deal. But that's not how it works. And they don't like doing the details, sweating the small stuff. So that's where I come in. And I handle the title search. I handle dealing with a title company. I open escrow. I should say that's first before you do the title search. So I open escrow, do the title search. I am the hub of communication. Every piece of communication in that transaction goes through me. And if there's a TC on the other side of the transaction, like if I work for the buyer and there's a TC working for the seller, I communicate with that TC as well. So the communication goes through us, and anything that happens, like if anything is found in the title search that needs to be dealt with, I help the relevant party as well as the title company deal with whatever comes up. And that's part of where the therapy comes in as well. So the goal is to get everybody on the same page and to get everybody as quickly as possible to the closing table. Now, on the way, there's going to be several deadlines. There's going to be the inspection deadline. There's going to be the EMD deadline, which stands for earnest money deposit, which is basically how much skin do you have in the game?
Right. Your dealing chip, right? It's your dealer's chip.
Yes. It's you need to have some skin in the game in order to show that you're serious about this transaction. Could be $100, could be $1,000. It's usually 1% of the purchase amount, is as a general rule. So I make sure as a TC that all parties abide by the deadlines and don't miss the deadlines, because if you miss a deadline, it could cost thousands of dollars, and nobody wants to lose thousands of dollars over missing a deadline. So I'm there to remind you day after day after day, even if I'm becoming an ag, that, hey, this deadline is coming up and you need to shape up or ship out, basically.
I like that. Shape up and ship out.
And the other deadline, well, there's the inspection and the EMD. Those are the two biggest deadlines. And once all the title search is done and the lien search is done and everything is smooth sailing, then we get to the closing table. Well, we schedule the closing. We notify both parties when the closing is. Come to the closing table, all the documents are signed, and typically that is where my role as a TC ends. Now, if you have hired a TC to do post-closing services, which is a separate add-on to my services, then there's extra services that I provide. I can provide help with switching from one insurance policy to another, because if the seller had their own policy and you should have gotten your own policy before the closing happened, so now we need to switch from one policy to the other, and that can take a few phone calls. And there's if it's a subject to transaction, you have to make sure that the new person can log in to the online dashboard in order to make the payment online, so that they have access when they need to make payment. So other things like that are part of post-closing services, which is an add-on to the original transaction. Now, the way I work is, because the TC does a lot of work up front, I need to get paid for my time. So I charge a 50% non-refundable deposit up front, and that covers the cost of my time. And as I said, whenever I do something, I do it well and I do it to the best of my ability. So when you pay me up front, you're paying for me to do something to the best of my ability, knowing that at the closing table, I'm going to get the other half of my fee. I'm, putting my trust in you as well, just like you're putting the trust in me by giving me an upfront fee. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh no, I like to pay everything at the end. Well, that's great. If you want to pay everything at the end, then give me a cut of the deal, and I will do everything for you and we can both make money. But since that is usually going to end up being a larger chunk of money than the TC fee, it would behoove you to pay the TC fee up front instead of as a chunk of the deal. So I think it works better that way for both the TC and the investor.
Gotcha. Well, that's very comprehensive. It seems like you are part of you are the glue that makes sure everything works properly, right? And it's like you're there from to start to end. And I think the way you process things is actually only fair, right? You can't if I were the person who were to avail your services, of course, it's like buying anything. You can't buy anything if you don't have the funds to pay it. At least up, like that actually that's generous of you to have that 50% first, and then you'll do that. That's actually very fair, and I agree with that. That's 100% very comprehensive explanation, especially for us. But like, there's one thing that you said, like switching policies. That's for EMD, right? Like mainly, I would believe that's for EMD. Like switching policies. What was the most difficult?
Well, no, that's not really. EMD is just basically until the inspection deadline ends, because there's a saying in the industry that once the inspection deadline ends, the EMD goes hard. Now, goes hard means becomes unrefundable. So you can put your EMD in and you can inspect the property. If you don't like it, you can say, I don't want to do this deal, and you can get your EMD back, copacetic, and we all go our separate ways. If you say you do the inspection and you say, okay, I want to go forward with this deal, then the deadline comes and the EMD goes hard, and the skin you put in the game is no longer refundable, and it gets applied to the closing cost, to the HUD statement. The insurance is something different, because every property needs to have home insurance. But if the seller is selling to the buyer, then the buyer needs to have insurance in their name, because if something happens to the home and the insurance is still in the seller's name, the seller is the one who's going to get the payout, not the buyer. So that's why you need to change. It's a little more tricky if it's a subject to, because the buyer is added as an additional insured to the existing seller's policy, because the mortgage is still in the seller's name. So the buyer needs to be added as an additional insured on the policy.
Gotcha. That was very clear. You are truly like the attention to detail is great on this one. And like now, you said earlier that one of the challenges of like dealing with different people, right? That's like being like what you said is like being a therapist. Can you share a story? What's your most interesting story in one of your transactions or dealings? Of course, you don't have to name drop. Don't mention names in that one, but like, can you tell us a funny story, an interesting story in one of your dealings?
Well, I had this one guy who I made contact with him in a chat, and a few months later, he texts me and says, can you help me with a transaction? I say, yeah, sure, no problem. And turns out it's his cousin who is renting this one place, and she wants to buy it, but they want to do it, like as a sub two and seller financing combined, which is called a hybrid transaction. So I helped them with that, but they're busy still negotiating the contract with the seller, and I'm helping him, because I'm a giving guy and I love to help. I'm helping him out, and saying, this is how you fill out the contract. This is, perhaps you should check this box, not this box. I can't fill it out for him because I'm not a lawyer. I don't deal with contracts, and I'm not part of the deal. So I don't have a chunk of the deal. So I can't fill out the contracts. That's illegal. So I can only suggest to him what to do. So I'm helping him out. And then one day, suddenly, the guy ghosts me. I call him, I call his cousin. Neither of them is picking up the phone. Neither of them are responding to my emails or my voicemails. And so I called the seller, and he said, yeah, the way the guy explained it to me, I'm not covered by this transaction, so I don't want to do it. Actually, he is covered. It's just that the guy who tried to do the contract didn't explain how the transaction would work well enough for the seller to understand that yes, he is covered. So that's how not to have a transaction. Do not ghost your TC, even if you've hired them and paid them a deposit of a few $100s. Do not ghost your TC. That's not a good idea.
Yes, 100%, man. That's like well, we're learning here. We're never to tell our audience we're never gonna do that. And like, yeah, that seems like it's not only like proper, but it's etiquette as well, right? It's etiquette, and like
Exactly.
it's like not only giving them trust, but it's just again etiquette, and it's just I don't think a person in their right mind would want to do that. Right? You already plus you already have the services too, right? You already got your piece of the services, and that's like one thing that's quite crazy. And like I hope you don't get to deal with any of that, or well, that's part of the job, I guess. There's sometimes there are difficult times to deal with those people.
That's kind of why you need to charge up front in case something like that happens. Otherwise, you just spent a whole lot of time and effort and energy for zero money. That's why you need to charge up front.
Yes, 100%. Now, when do deals when deals run into trouble like that, not only that specific story, but with all of your experiences, what trend did you see, or where does it usually start breaking down with those difficult situations? Where do people usually like make mistakes and the deals start breaking down?
When someone starts hiding the truth, I mean, this can involve a number of things. It could be the wholesaler doesn't want to reveal how much they're making on a deal, and so they don't want to send the documents of a previous deal to the TC. This is, there's like an A to B and a B to C. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept. So A to B is a seller sells to a wholesaler, and then the wholesaler turns around and sells to the end buyer. But the wholesaler, if you're the TC in the transaction of the wholesaler to the end buyer, you want to know the details of the previous transaction. And the wholesaler doesn't want to reveal how much they made on the deal. So, but the TC is asking for the documents. Now, it's okay, you can white out, how much you made on the deal, but the TC is still going to need the documents, even without that fact, so that they have a full picture of the file. There's also, wholesalers who don't really want the buyer to know that they're going to be wholesale, that they're going to be flipping the deal, or that they're going to be what a sub 2 really involves, and that their name is still going to be on the mortgage. So anytime someone tries to pull a fast one is when the problems start. You need to be open and honest.
Gotcha. And like that's part of your job too, to catch those, right? As a TC.
Yes.
It's usually you who catches those like dishonesties, right? And We can see the
Yes.
value in that, right? Now, you said earlier the guy with that interesting story. The guy called you, and what struck me is like I'm now interested in like it's not always that we get to talk to a professional TC, right? So, how do you get your clients and leads? Talk to us about your process in getting your clients.
It comes from networking, basically. You have to be in the room where it happens, to quote Hamilton. Basically, you have to go to meetups and you have to network with people online and you have to, put yourself out there in social media. And a, that is a good way to find customers. Also, obviously, from referrals. When you work with someone and they like the way you work and they like the way that you save them time and you save them money, they're going to want to work with you again, because the average file takes about 20 to 25 hours of admin work, which is 20 to 25 hours the investor doesn't have to do and can spend on looking for their next deal. So if you're going to save an investor 20 to 25 hours of doing paperwork, they're going to say thank you. I would rather go out and find a new deal. So that's why they're going to want to work with you.
I see. Okay, so it's all manual. Do you deal with anything automated, especially with nowadays? Do you have like a lead generator, AI, anything like? Have you delved into that?
There are some TCs that use AI and automation and that kind of thing. I haven't started using that. I like to do things more manually. I mean, I do have a website, sterlingservices.com, that has a form that will populate into my CRM. So that is kind of automated. But other than that, I like to do things a little more old school.
I like that. I like that, and it makes sense. It's like you get to check everything more, right? And like, and what's your?
Yes.
I mean, just a little bit of off topic here. What's your take on AI and automation, especially in the client industry like that you're in? Are you for it? Are you against it? Or do you really prefer doing things manually?
Well, it depends what you're using it for. If you're using it for precision in surgery, yeah, it's a great thing. If you're using it to create AI music, no, it's not a great thing. And if you're training it on intellectual property of other people whose permission you didn't get, it's not a great thing. So it depends on what you're using it for.
Right. Specifically for your industry, do you are you looking into like using any of that or still manual?
I am looking into that. I recently took a course on how to use AI in my industry, and there are ways to do it, especially with regards to like lead generation and that kind of thing. But I think it needs to evolve a little more before, it doesn't feel like it's AI. I mean, you can tell when someone calls you on the phone and asks about your property, you can tell whether it's an AI or a person by the way they respond. So I think the technology needs to grow a little more.
That's a great answer, and I agree with you. And just full disclosure, I used to be an AI Oh, I still am an AI specialist. That's why I'm. It's one of the things of my in my bag. But like, I do agree with you. I think there's this thought that I read online that they said that we built the library where AI is trained. Can you imagine that, right? Like it's people who built that library, and I 100% agree with you. It's like it's not a good thing that they're trained in things that people actually built. But AI has done amazing things too, and that's a very interesting take on that one. Well, now let's move on to something a little bit more. I guess now we can have like I thank you for giving us a detailed window or like a big window in your business. Now I want to transition back into something more personal, and this is something I ask every single guest. So I ask the same question at the start of the podcast, which is, who are you, right? And outside of your
Mhm.
profession. And this time, I want your opinion on this. And there's no right or wrong answer, right? All of the guests answer this very differing opinions. Which is more important to you, right? Confidence or skill? Because in the perfect world, of course, it's perfectly balanced, right? You have the right amount of confidence and the right amount of skill. But if you only were to choose one, which is more important to you personally?
More important is confidence. Skill can be taught. Skill can be taught. Confidence is something you really, really have to work on. Nobody can teach you. Yes, there's courses on self-esteem and take this course and take that course, but you're the one that has to do the work. You can have all the skill in the world, but if you go into a presentation and the customer doesn't like your confidence, then they're not going to buy from you. It's simple as that. So confidence is very important, especially when you're selling yourself.
Oh, I see. I see. I like that. Well, I'm I didn't expect that for someone who's like detail oriented. I would expect the answer skill. Again, that's not wrong. No right or wrong answer in that one, but that's interesting. Confidence first for you. I got it. For me, it's skill, but it goes both ways because it's like you need the confidence to grab the skills to get the skills, but you also need the skills. The skills will give you the confidence, right? So that's a really interesting take on it. That's great. And
The experience will give you the confidence.
that's one thing. That's good. I like that. It's experience that will give the content. Can you tell us more about that? Like, can you expound on that more?
Nobody wants to hire someone who's a newbie. And they want to hire someone, when they hire someone, they want to know you've done it and you know the pitfalls and you know what to do and you know how to get around it and you know how to solve the problems. And I've been there, I've done that. I am the person you're looking for. So hire me.
Gotcha. I like that. So you've added another layer to that question. One of the guests before said he said skills, confidence, more important is character. For you, it's a new thing for me. Skills, confidence, and experience. Wonderful. That is so great. And last request. We're at the end of the podcast, and um, what would be your last message or final message? What message would you like to tell our audience? Right? What will be the last statement you would like to say?
Well, there's a lot of, people out there saying that the sky is falling. San Diego is currently fourth out of 242 cities where the average starter home costs $1 million or more. And California has the top four spots, the top four. And, so as bad as you think something is, there are always going to be positives. So there's a bill in Congress that is looking to block large corporations from buying single family homes. And there's a bill in the Arizona state legislature to protect people from predatory wholesalers. So there's a lot of reasons for pessimism, but there's also a lot of reasons for optimism. So this is a cyclical industry. So wait long enough and things will turn around. So even if these laws pass, there's still going to be people buying real estate. And as long as there's people buying real estate, there's still going to be a need for transaction coordinator. So there is still going to be work out there. So keep your head up.
That is an amazing way to end this podcast, Gil, and we appreciate it. Thank you for your time and wonderful. Thank you. That's what I can say.
Thank you very much. I had a great time.
All right.